carry trauma into their relationships. Studies estimate up to 70% of adults have experienced at least one traumatic event. Trauma doesn't always leave visible scars. It shapes how we love, trust, and connect. At Team 2, we bring these stories into the light. Through open conversations, we explore the roots of pain and the path toward renewal. Every story deserves healing. Every heart deserves peace. Join us in rebuilding hope, because healing begins with two.
Well, welcome to our show today, Team 2, where two shall become one. My name is Dr. Harrison Mungal, and this is my wife, Kathleen Mungal. We have been married for 35 years, and we have 7 amazing children, 6 married, and we have a couple of grandchildren. And so we have some I would say, some experience to bring on the table to our viewers. We really appreciate those of you who take the time to send us a note, send us an email. Let us know how we're doing, what you'd like to see on our show. We'll love to hear from you as well. But in today's shows particularly, we want to talk about personality and character. As you can see, Kathleen and I are very different in our ethnic background. And with that brings a lot of differences. The similarities, I would say, is our faith in the Lord and trust in the Lord. But throughout the journey, this year will be 36 years. I've known her for like 37 years and 4 months and a few weeks of my life. And it's been, I cannot say it's been a smooth journey, but it has been a journey where we have learned a lot in terms of ourselves and how we can work with each other for the common goal, and that is to have a strong relationship. The Bible says that two shall become one. And maybe some of us have that misconception that when you get married, automatically you're going to become one. It takes years and years and years of merging your lives together for that to happen.
Yeah, it takes a lot of years. As you can see, we're very different. But all things are possible through the Lord. And what we've discovered is that it complements each other. His strengths and my weaknesses, my strengths and his weaknesses. We complement one another and help each other out. With all the differences that we have, it makes a very unique couple. I think we're a very unique couple, and we've learned so much together in our journey. And with our differences, it's really created something so unique. We were able to create a wonderful blueprint together. And that's something that took us a little bit of time to figure out, didn't it?
Well, I would say whether you get married yesterday or you have been married for 50, 60 years, because in my practice, working as a psychologist, there's a lot of different couples that comes with therapy. And when I look at the span of it, a lot of the problems are very similar, but also the fact that two people are very different. Maybe 2 introverts, 2 extroverts, introvert, extrovert can be the case. But character and personality is very important to understand that, number one, they come from the Lord and they need to be a complement to one another rather than a conflict to each other. And sometimes, if you're an A-type personality or if you're someone who's an extrovert, your mindset can be more on the disadvantage of that character rather than the advantage. And the same thing with an introvert. You can function more on the disadvantage of an introvert versus the advantage. But what I like to encourage couples is that you have to learn that the who you are as a person was created by God. God created you as his masterpiece, and he has put all of these talents and giftings and personalities and character into your lives that have been shaped by your surroundings. And the Word of God is really, I guess, the ultimate tool that really helps us to shape the who we are as a person, that his love can flow through us. But in the interim of a marriage, when two people come together, sometimes it may look like raw material, and in that journey, you have to now figure out this material, what it's going to turn out to be.
And sometimes early in the marriage, we look at the disadvantages instead, or look at the issues or look at the differences instead of looking at how those differences can benefit one another. I remember when you first did a chart for introvert and extrovert for a conference one time, and you put the positives for introvert and the negative, the positive for extroverts and the negative, and the positives were in the middle. And it was so unique to see that there were so many positive things. Like you said, sometimes we tend to dwell on the negative aspects of our personality. But if we look at, like my husband's an extrovert, I look at all the positive things about him being an extrovert. And then he can look at the positive things about me being an introvert. And then we can blend that together.
Sometimes that's hard to look at because as you said, the brain is so conditioned to look at negativity, right, and positivity.
Right.
But we want to talk to you in this show today about understanding character and personality, understanding those positive attributes of an introvert and also the extroverts. But I want you to picture in your mind when you come together, if you were two pieces of material that has to now be shaped into merging together, almost like melting candles together where you become one. Like Kathleen says, we're very different. I tried dyeing my hair blonde so I can look like her, but it didn't change my personality or character. I was still this person I am, and she was still the person. She dyed her hair red one time, but it still didn't change who she are because it's internally. So when you think about yourself and your spouse as an example, and what may be the major reasons as to why there's conflict in the home, why there's conflict in the marriage. Yeah, conflict can be because of infidelity, we hear a lot, or it can be because of addictions, or we can hear a conflict, it can be because of parenting skills, work ethics, or lack of motivation to work, or finances. There are so many reasonings of conflict. What I want you to picture is that you are God's masterpiece, which means that you are perfect in His sight. But all these problems that comes about in your life, they are like leeches that try to suck the life out of you. And when you look at your spouse and you see the leeches, you don't no longer see your spouse, you see the leeches. And your character has a lot to do with how you focus on the leeches versus focus on the person God brought into your life. The moment you get your eyes off your loved one, the person that God brought into your world, and focus on the leeches, which can be behaviors, it can be habits, it can be negativity that they produce, it can be mere laziness, it can be so many things. The ultimate goal is to get couples to come together to focus on how do they get the leeches off from each other so they can have a very good marriage. And there are tons of leeches. We're going to take a short commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of those leeches.
At Team 2, we believe in the power of connection. Because 2 is always better than 1. Through therapy, workshops, and retreats, Team 2 gives couples the tools to heal, grow, and build lasting love. Join us in saving relationships, strengthening families, and restoring hope. Donate today, because love is worth fighting for.
Welcome back to our show. As we're talking about personality and character in marriage, in your relationship, we're talking about the leeches that are attaching themselves to you. So your focus no longer is on the love that you have for your partner, your spouse. Your focus now become those leeches. And your personality and character has a lot to do with how you deal with problems. Maybe we can talk a little bit about personality. When you think of personality, what do you think about?
Well, when I think of personality, you think of somebody who has a lot to say. Personality can be something very high or it could be something very low. Somebody with a big personality is somebody who has to share a lot, has to say a lot. And there can be a personality with somebody who's can be very quiet and maybe not want to be able to share or not feel that they can share all the time. So personality, when you have two people of different personalities, there can be a clash because one may not feel like they're being heard, and one wants to be heard, and cannot hear the other, or the other one just doesn't want to come out of their shell. So personality is really big.
Well, I think a personality is also attached to the introvert and extrovert we're talking
Right.
about. And some of you who are watching us, I encourage you to do True Color personality test. It's free online. You can check your personality and your spouses and have an idea of your the type of personality you carry, so that you can understand yourself. Because sometimes I think couples don't understand themselves. Individuals don't understand their personality, and they try to be like each other rather than appreciating who they are as a person. You talked earlier about the introvert and extrovert. What are some, maybe we can help couples who are watching us understand in terms of what are some of the negative attributes of an extrovert, someone with an A-type personality?
Well, I think
extrovert.
Thank you. Extrovert can be usually they're the life of the party. That could be a positive or a negative, or they could be prideful, or they could be want it my way and the only way. That can be a negative aspect.
Yeah.
Or wanting always to be in control, because they're great leaders. I'm saying the positive with the negative. They're great leaders, but sometimes they want to just be in control of the situation, maybe not take any outside ideas. Those are kind of some negative.
Well, a lot of other attributes of extrovert. The negatives would be they will just step on anybody that is in front of them to get where they want to go in life. Sometimes they don't care about feelings. Sometimes they don't care about what others think. They just are a go-getter. The positives to an extrovert is that they're great leaders, and they are the ones who are very, their presence bring a dominancy of control or leadership, which needs to be appreciated in a marriage. They're the ones who are goal setters. They're the ones who don't look at the obstacles that are standing in their way to stop them from achieving the bigger picture. When it comes to marriage, I think a lot of times extroverts, if their mindset is on the right page in terms of wanting a healthy marriage, wanting a successful marriage, wanting to raise a successful family, then they can use that gifting to be able to nurture the marriage so it can actually grow and blossom. And I think like even for our own selves, ourselves here, there are a lot of times where you have to put your foot in the water, even though you don't know how deep it's going to be, because you got to take that chance.
Risk taker.
High risk taker in terms of wanting the best and keep pushing yourselves to get there. But then we have the introverts, and the introverts, their negatives would be very closed and they don't talk a lot. They're very reserved. You're not sure what they're thinking. They don't speak their mind. You're shaking your head like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. That can be me in some areas of my negative aspects.
But the positives is you're very trustworthy. And introverts are people who give their word and they will hold on to that word. They're not gonna, I think most of my true friends or good friends, they are more on the introvert or midway between introvert and extrovert, only because they are people I can trust and people you can depend upon, people that you can call upon anytime you know they're there for you. Right. They're reliable people. They're more of a convergent mindset than a divergent mindset, meaning that they focus on one thing to get the job done and get the job done, whereas an extrovert can be multitaskers and sometimes spread themselves too thin and don't get a lot done. But working together, you merge your life together, and in that way you start to build on each other and focus on, if there is a problem, how you put those two strengths together to actually target the problem, not the person. Because too many times we target the person, we look at the person, but if you look at putting your strengths together to target what the cause of the problem is, then we start to target that leech and get it out of that person.
Right. No, I agree. And I think we also need to encourage each other in the strengths of our personality. We all need to be heard, that we are, not that we're just doing a good job, but I really appreciate the strength you bring to the marriage. And one thing I appreciate about my husband, about you, is because he's an extrovert, he's very adventurous, and I've always been able to live a very adventurous life. Sometimes it's a little scary sometimes, but I can never say my life is boring or dull with my husband beside me. But I encourage him in those things, the decisions that he makes, the risks that he takes, that it's brought our family where we are today. And I encourage you in that. So, yeah.
I asked it one time when we go to heaven if she's going to sit with the introvert or the extrovert. And she said she's going to go with the extrovert. And I says, why? And she says, the introverts are very too quiet. So extroverts can be loud, but I guess the point we're trying to bring across today in terms of how do you nurture your personality without trying to make an introvert become an extrovert or make an extrovert become an introvert, you merge those personalities together and then you start building your marriage to become stronger, start targeting the problem as they come so that the problem doesn't seem overwhelming. Because I think I believe when couples like us, when we come to that place in life where we stop thinking about the problem and start focusing on the love we have for each other, the problem starts to shrink. And God starts to give us directions in terms of how we can actually resolve this problem, like the wisdom that we can pull together to start nurturing the problem.
I think when you really start listening to each other, hearing each other from the strengths that you have from each other, is so powerful because you can do so much more in your relationship. It took us a while to figure it out. I must be honest. It took us a while, and it's work. But now, when we come across issues or challenges, we rely on each other's strengths.
Amen.
And he will pull me up my weak moments, and I will do vice versa because we balance each other in our strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's such a great thing.
Well, that's food for thought. We're going to take a short commercial, and we're going to come back and we talk a little bit about character and what are some practical tips we can pull together so we can actually have healthy, strong marriages where two shall become one.
Love is a journey, not a destination, but a discovery. At Team 2, we walk with you every step, guiding love forward. Here, every story matters, and every step forward brings light to love. Because stronger connection is the heart of every lasting relationship. Connect with Team 2 today, because 2 is better than 1.
Welcome back to our show. Two is better than 1, Team 2. Talking today about personality and character. We just, with the intermission, we're talking about how do we identify the personality that we carry, and then how do we get those personalities to work together so we can actually focus on the problem rather than the solution. But one interesting thought, personality is shaped from a very young age in terms of discipline and structure in a home. And under the DSM-5 for psychiatry, working 17 years in that field, the understanding of personality is there are 3 clusters that we go by, and in the last decade, you probably hear a lot about one of the cluster, which is narcissism. And you hear a lot about narcissistic personality. My husband is a narcissistic man, or my wife is, and it's all about them and they don't really care. It has a piece to do with personality, just like borderline personality disorder, where the person emotions are like a tomato, where the skin is very thin and they feel everything. Every word, every negativity, they feel it, and then it becomes part of their world, and they manifest it by self-harm or sexual promiscuity, or there's so many different attributes that is very common with that personality. And personality itself is another part of the cluster. But when we become adults, maybe we get married, sometimes the areas of personality that has not been shaped well, that has been dominant our lives, then become dominant in the relationship, where it's like, I want it my way, or there's no other alternative. And if I don't get it my way, threats are being made. People want to kill themselves with threats, or all attention seeking, as some of us may see it as. But the reality is there is a cause for it, and you have to get back to the cause. In terms of, some of us says the person, your spouse cry wolf all the time, and it becomes problematic in the marriage, where it's so hard to handle, and then you don't know how to function. Well, you think about narcissistic personality, or borderline personality, or personality disorders in themselves. I believe that the same way God can heal every other illnesses and disease and everything else out there, God can also heal a personality and shape that personality to become a godly personality, where whether it's introvert driven or extrovert driven, it can merge into a relationship where the marriage can be healthy. Because if you're struggling with personality disorders in terms of narcissism or borderline itself, you have to think 10 years, 20 years from now, where's your life going to be? And if you want to be a grumpy old person or a lonely person, then you will continue with the same personality that you're functioning. But if you realize to yourself that I need to make changes, that making threats and self-harm and doing all the negative things just so that you can get your way through life, you realize that it's not long-term, it's not going to work. You can shape that personality because you are in control of your thoughts, and you're in control of what comes out of your mouth. And when you get into a marriage, sometimes people get into such a negative, toxic relationship because they keep fighting with each other rather than stopping and listening at what really is the cause of all of this. Let's identify the leeches. Let's get the leeches out. If personality needs to be shaped, then let's work on shaping that personality to become stronger and start building on it. Because with personality, character is the other part of that. And character is a lot to do with the description of that person, the characteristic traits. Are you a giving person? Are you someone who is very loving and kind and generous, and someone who is very, like mission oriented, humanitarian oriented? There's so many characteristic traits that we can carry. Sometimes those are affected by the personality that is more dominant, especially personalities that can be negative. Does that make sense?
Well, I think if somebody's struggling with a personality disorder and the other partner is more kind and loving and more quiet and more, it can be very damaging to their spirit because of that other personality. So it's really something that needs to be worked on. So how do you work on that?
I think you work on it by start looking at the characteristics of an individual. What are some of the character of that person, and start to bring out the best in that person rather than the worst. The same way the brain has been creating pathways where negativity becomes dominant, or negative characteristic traits can be dominant, we need to now create new neural pathways that are on the positive spectrum, because when it's positive, the brain creates the dopamines and serotonin that makes you feel good about yourself.
Right.
And sometimes I think personalities can be shaped by going on a mission field, or by putting your heart out for somebody else rather than focusing on yourself.
So it has to be intentional.
Has to be intentional. And every one of us, God has put amazing characters inside of us. We have to start finding ourselves, finding that character, and training our brain that these are good things we need to do to make a happy marriage. Like giving, giving, being able to donate. I mean, we have donated how many cars to Teen Challenge and some other organizations. Get your children to see that it's good to be kind to other people, help others cross the street, driving through a fast food place, pay for the person behind you, because your trust is always in the Lord, that He is your provider, not what you have in front of you. You have to learn the concept of godly character in your life so that is going to shape your personality to become much more stronger in your marriage. And so it eliminates a lot of conflict, I would say, in general.
So you work on shaping your personality and then building your character.
Yes. And in that way, the focus, when you shape personalities, regardless of what that personality may be when you get into a marriage, you shape the personality by bringing the best out of a person, which is the character. And then you have discussions about the things you don't like in the marriage, and you put your thoughts together so that you can actually target what is the problem, what is the cause of that problem, versus blaming each other and create a spiral in the relationship.
I know sometimes this comes back from the way we were raised, or comes back from our family background. And you come into a marriage now and you have all these different ideas and different concepts, and you got to merge them together. I know that for us, when we made that blueprint together, because we took what was the best of what we learned in our personality and characteristics growing up, in our traditions, and put the best of those together to merge them.
Yeah. And you know, that's why I continue to encourage couples that even if you have not been raised in a godly home, or your environment was very toxic and dysfunctional, it does not mean that you bring that into your marriage and then make your marriage a dysfunctional marriage. You have to be able to look at the ones around you in terms of what is working for them, and start to adapt and create a blueprint for your marriage that's going to consider to be a healthy marriage.
It's good.
And sometimes, one of the things I have learned, 35 years of marriage, is I got to get rid of myself and focus on each other. So no longer me, myself, and I. It's now about us and we.
Right.
So with that note, we're going to wrap up our show today. Thank you again so much for watching us. We're looking forward to our next show coming up. And if you have any questions, any comments, we would love to hear from you. Shoot us an email or send us a text. Call the prayer line as well. God bless you. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Sometimes love isn't loud. It's showing up when you're tired, caring when your heart feels empty. Compassion fatigue is real. Even the strongest hearts can run dry. At Team 2, we help couples find balance again, to rest, to breathe, to reconnect. Because love isn't about being perfect. It's about healing together. Even love needs rest, a pause to remember why we began. At Team 2, we create space for restoration, where love can breathe again and hearts can refill with hope. When love feels heavy, let's lift it.